Markets have surged to the highest point of the day after a slew of positive business updates lead to optimism, but the market breadth remains negative. Financials and healthcare are leading the gains, while metals and consumer durables are the big drags. Fortis Healthcare gets a thumbs up from SEBI for the long-stymied open offer by parent company IHH, while another boost for all government empaneled hospitals comes from an upward revision in the central government health services rates after 14 long years. Tata Capital's 15,500 crore rupee IPO opens following a strong response from anchor investors. CEO Rajiv Sabharwal expects Q3 and Q4 to be bumper quarters and sees margins improving as costs dip with digitization and AI deployment. Business updates by top banks and NBFCs point to strong credit growth in the second quarter, with lenders like PNB also indicating optimism in corporate credit growth going forward. Small finance banks also see recoveries in microcredit rise. And gold prices are scaled to a new high above $3,900 an ounce as the US shutdown adds fuel to the rally. Bitcoin tops $125,000 for the first time ever as ETF inflows surge, even as silver scales to a new high in India, nearing its record mark globally. Good afternoon, you're with us here on Business Lunch. We are coming to you live from the CNBC TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I am Hormuz Fatakia, and it is a very, very good start to the week for our markets. We've carried on from where we left off on Friday after the sharp rally that we saw in Wednesday's trade. Thursday was a holiday. We built on to those gains on Friday, and we are extending those gains in today's trading session as well. At the highest point of the day is the Nifty now. 25,050 is where the index currently stands, 150 points higher. So comfortably above the 50% retracement mark of 25,016. And now closing in on the 61.2% retracement mark, which is 25,113. So that is the next important level to watch on the upside for the index. Two major indices that the Nifty needs to thank for this move is the Nifty Bank, of course. The Nifty Bank has now retraced its entire fall from the highs of the 18th of September to the lows of the 29th of September, and it has now made a new high, new swing high, if I can call it that. It crossed the recent swing high of 55,835, now comfortably above the mark of 56,000, still over 1,000 points away from its record high levels, but doing fairly well for itself is the Nifty Bank, the fifth straight day of gains for the banking index. The other index that it needs to thank is the IT index, doing fairly well for itself as well. We start off with the IT earnings later this week, and the Nifty IT now at the highest point of the day as well, 1.75% higher for that stock, for that index, and most of the constituents of the index also doing fairly okay. But just before we move to Gaurav on the banking updates, there were a whole host of them. Just pull up the advanced decline, and I'll give you an idea of how the market breadth is doing, because the broader markets have been fairly quiet over the last at the start of this week, and the line is only widening. Even though the Nifty Bank and the Nifty IT are at the highest point of the day, the broader market line, after converging in the early minutes of trade, the gap now has only widened. 1,650 stocks declining for 1,200 stocks that are advancing on the NSE. But banks have been in the spotlight since the Reserve Bank of India's policy announcements on Wednesday. They continue to be in the spotlight today as well. And almost every banking, financial, small finance bank, they came out with updates on Friday after market closing hours and over the weekend as well. As you can see in the stock price as well, doing fairly well are these banking names. Gaurav is here with the lowdown of how the quarter has gone by for a lot of these banking majors. Gaurav.
Well, let's talk about HDFC Bank, the biggest private sector bank of India, that reported numbers. In advances, they reported 9.9% growth. Now, remember, system level growth is at around 10.4%. So, definitely it seems that HDFC Bank is picking pace at the system level. As they indicated in FY26, they will be growing at a system level, and in FY27, they will be outpacing system. As of now, it seems that they are actually picking pace towards the system level. Other than that, in terms of deposits, the growth is at around 12.5%, which is again higher than the system. And at the same time, on a quarter-on-quarter basis, the deposit growth was at around 1.4%, and that is the reason why we saw some spike in the LDR ratio. Now it stands at around 98.8%. Remember, they wanted to take it around 85 to 90%. So that is something which causes a concern for this quarter, but as of now, good set of numbers from HDFC Bank. For Kotak Mahindra Bank also, we saw very good set of numbers. Advances that increased almost by 15.8% and deposits increased almost by 14.6% on a year-on-year basis. Remember, this is actually the highest growth that we have seen so far for the bank of a size as Kotak Mahindra Bank. But at the same time, let's also not forget that in the last quarter also, bank had reported very good set of numbers, but during the results, they said that the growth was driven by corporate banking, which is a low-yielding segment, and at the same time, NIMs also declined and credit costs increased. So definitely, I'll be specifically watching out on how the numbers are going to be during the results, but as of now, good set of numbers. Bajaj Finance, that also came up with good set of number, 23.5% of growth on a year-on-year basis versus the guidance of 24%. So definitely, all in all, these companies came up with good set of numbers, and the market is also treating them well. All the stocks are up more than 1% in a trade today.
And doing very well is the banking stocks, the banking index, and having a rub-off on the Nifty as well. Gaurav, thank you for that update. Shifting focus now to the other big story of the day, the revision of health scheme rates by the central government and its impact on hospitals, and that is visible in the price action as well. A lot of these hospital stocks are seeing. Ekta is joining in with the breakdown of that. Ekta, take it away.
Well, yes, hospitals are in focus because CGHS, which is basically the central government health scheme, which is for central government employees in terms of cashless payment in impaneled hospitals, their rates have been revised for the first time significantly since 2014. Now, the government has revised rates for nearly 2,000 medical procedures under the CGHS scheme, and the rate comes into effect this month itself. Many hospitals, or some of the hospitals at least, were refusing to take cashless treatment because of the receivables which were piling up, as well as the hospitals saying that the package rates were outdated and did not account for medical inflation since 2014. Now, hospitals say that this will be a positive change. They need to assess the revenue impact, but they are expecting cash flows to improve, and receivables, which have been improving, would probably sustain and improve going forward. Now, in terms of the companies or the hospitals that would be impacted would depend on the payer mix. For example, Fortis, CGHS revenue is around 4.3% in terms of the payer mix. Apollo, their exposure is around 9% to government. Max, institutional exposure is quite large at around 21.8%. Global Health is at around 18%, with CGHS probably hovering at around 10%. And Narayana is around 18% from schemes as well. And Yatharth too has a large exposure to the government schemes. It could be over around 30% in terms of the total payer mix. So overall, yes, it is positive in terms of the CGHS revision which has taken place. It is expected to improve cash flows, and receivables, which have been improving, should probably be on an uptrend for these hospitals.
Uptrend as well, and Fortis among the top movers among these hospital stocks today, 6% higher on that stock, at least on last count, and most of the others as well. Apollo, Global Health, Max Healthcare, the newest Nifty entrant, Yatharth, as Ekta was highlighting, all of them seeing gains of anywhere between 4 to 8% in today's trading session. So doing fairly well are these hospital stocks as well in the pink of health. Now, Vodafone Idea continues to remain under pressure though. The stock has been a bit volatile in today's session. It fell almost 5%, then recovered from the lows, then declined again. And that's after the Supreme Court, hearing its plea for relief on the AGR dues, has adjourned the case and has set the next date of hearing as the 13th of October, which is next Monday. So for now, Vodafone Idea currently 3.5% lower at 8.5 rupees. Take a short break. More news and updates on the other side. Welcome back. Now, while speaking at the Kautilya conference yesterday, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar spoke on the need for an understanding between India and the US where bottom lines and red lines are respected. Listening to what he had to say.
Whatever happens, at the end of the day, there has got to be a trade understanding with the United States. There has to be one because it is the world's largest market, but also because it is, much of the world has reached those understandings. But it has to be an understanding where our bottom lines, our red lines are respected. In any agreement, there are things you can negotiate and there are things you can't. And I think we are pretty clear about that. And we have to find that landing ground. And that's been the conversation really which has been going on since March.
Now, more than 10 deaths have been reported from Madhya Pradesh's Chhindwara amidst consumption of contaminated batch of cold drift cough syrup. In response, several states including Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Uttarakhand, Rajasthan, Telangana and Kerala have issued advisories and banned the sale of the cold drift cough syrup. The Union Health Ministry held a meeting chaired by Health Secretary Punya Salila Srivastava with all states and union territories. The meeting focused on ensuring strict compliance with drug quality standards and promoting the use of safe-use cough syrups. And at least 28 people are killed and a dozen missing after heavy rainfall triggered massive landslides across the Darjeeling district in West Bengal. Hundreds of tourists visiting for the festive season are now stranded after key routes caved in under the landslides. Rescue operations are now being carried out by the army and the NDRF teams, and multiple helplines are activated in Siliguri, Darjeeling and Kolkata for those stranded. The IMD has issued a red alert for the sub-Himalayan areas of West Bengal and an orange alert for Darjeeling. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has announced compensation for victims and will visit North Bengal today to review the situation. And as we sleep into a short break, we leave you with visuals of the Bhumi Pujan ceremony for the 240,000 square feet NHC multi-speciality hospital, block and bone marrow transplant cancer hospital at the Tata Memorial Hospital in Navi Mumbai. The National Stock Exchange of India, as part of its CSR initiative through the NSE Foundation, has partnered with the Tata Memorial Centre to develop this cancer hospital block. Welcome back. Now, Union Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal is on his two-day visit to Qatar to chair the India-Qatar Joint Commission meeting. Parikshit is joining in now with the key agenda for this. Parikshit.
The main purpose of Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal's visit to Qatar is to finalize the terms of reference for a bilateral trade agreement with Qatar. He will be co-chairing the Joint Commission on Trade and Commerce along with his counterpart, Sheikh Faisal bin Thani. There will be discussions on diversifying trade and increasing exports of items such as pharmaceuticals, mineral fuels, gems and jewelry, plastics, organic chemicals, edible oils, and copper articles to Qatar. Currently, the total trade stands at around $14 billion and it is skewed in favor of the Qatari government. India's exports stood at $1.7 billion in the last fiscal, and India's imports from Qatar were close to $11 or $12 billion. This is primarily because of LNG, and this is why the relationship is also very important, because 40% of India's LNG needs are met by Qatar. In fact, India is one of the largest markets for Qatar's gas exports around the world. So there will be a lot of focus on diversifying investments, diversifying trade, also increasing FDI. Earlier this year, during the visit of the Qatari Emir, Qatar had made a commitment of investing more than $10 billion in India. So we will be discussing how to speed up those investments in the years to come. Qatar is a very important market for the country. There are more than 850,000 people of Indian origin living and working here, 45,000 Indian students as well. 20,000 small and big Indian companies have a presence in Qatar. So this trade agreement, if it happens soon, will be very beneficial for India and Indian businesses as well.
Parikshit, thank you for that update. The biggest IPO of 2025, Tata Capital, has opened for subscription today, and as of now, the issue has been subscribed around about 25% as of the latest update. Earlier, we spoke to Rajiv Sabharwal, the Managing Director and CEO of Tata Capital, about the company's growth and the road ahead. Listen in.
We've been growing at 25% plus over the last few years. We believe India provides that opportunity of growing at that space. And it also happens because we are present in all segments. Retail and SME, which form about 88% of our book, itself grows at about 17 to 18% in the Indian credit market. And besides this, we are also present in the corporate space. So being present helps us. In terms of margins, I think our margins should be looked at with perspective to our credit costs. Our credit costs have been the least in the industry. If I take away the merger of Tata Motor Finance, Tata Capital has always had credit costs of below 1%. As far as the future is concerned, I think we've always looked at how we can add new products and grow them, which provide better margins. There'll be some products where through the raw material, the impact will be seen over the next 3 months or so. So I think we are really expecting Q3 and Q4 to be really bumper quarters for this year. When you talk about the credit quality and such issues, we've been pretty quick on responding whenever there were challenges. In fact, when we saw challenges in certain segments, we became tighter and more conservative. And that was reflected in terms of our growth in those areas also. As I mentioned just some time back, we feel the worst of credit cost is behind us.
The biggest IPO of the year so far, Tata Capital, 15,500 crore. And that's not it. The 11,500 crore LG Electronics IPO opens for subscription tomorrow. So there is a lot of hustle and bustle in the primary markets. By the way, the Nifty still 150 points higher as was the case when we started the show. 25,050 is where the stock is. But the real action though is in the broader markets, specific stocks. Even though the market breadth has been a little awry in favor of the declines, the mid-cap index is up 0.5%. But take a look at some of the stocks. KIOCL is one such name. 17.5% higher. We spoke about this on Bazaar this morning as to how the stock does not have any free float in the market, considering the fact that the government owns 99% of the company. KIOCL 17.5% higher at 621. ITDC is yet another one with very little float in the market, 16% higher on that stock as well. And what has also sprung up to the highest point of the day is Repro India, and 15% higher on that stock as well. So plenty of activity in the small cap space, and most of this activity has happened after noon and after 12 o'clock. So we'll keep an eye out on all of these names in the small cap space. But with that, we call time on this edition of Business Lunch. From me and the team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. Mid Cap Radar on the other side.